Jane, let's go back to that explosion, the brain. That what is it? What's lacking in the brain that, I think it's mentioned a minute ago, Davos report 10 years ago, we've got to address this. Some of the solutions do seem rather obvious. Why can't we get there? What is it about us that we see the solution and the urgency, but we can't get there?
Well, I find this whole thing about our intellect is fascinating. One, we're now beginning to understand that we're not the only beings on the planet with personalities, minds, and emotions, which I was taught when I went to Cambridge. There was a difference between us and other animals that was one of kind. And now we realize it's one of degree. And animals are way more intelligent than we used to think. But it can't compare with a species that designed a rocket that went up to Mars, from which crawled a little robot taking photos, or the Chinese have put a rocket on the dark side of the moon. We've seen photographs of those planets. I don't want to go and live there personally, and I doubt if anybody here does. So to answer your question, what's gone wrong? How is it that the most intellectual creature that's ever walked on this planet, destroying its only home, destroying the environment, and causing all these inequalities in our societies? What's gone wrong? And I think that what's gone wrong, at least in my perspective, is that there has become a link, that we've broken the link between intellect and wisdom. And if we think of wisdom as love, compassion, and making decisions not based on how will this help me now, how will this help my bank account, how will it help the next shareholders meeting, how will it help my next political campaign, but how will this decision I make today affect future generations? That link seems to have been broken. And how do we address that? This is why I began a program for young people called Roots and Shoots, that's now in nearly 80 countries around the world. And we bring together young people. We work with those from inner city. We work with the Native American reservation children. And if you want inequality, go to one of the reservations in the richest country in the world. If you want inequality, walk along some of the streets in the UK where the wealthy live and find homeless people sleeping on the street below. It's everywhere. And so by bringing these young people together from all these different areas of life and having them talk about it and get to understand each other's problems and then work out ways of helping each other, that I'm beginning to see is making a difference.
A quick follow-up. If the answer is youth, do we have enough time for them to get older?
Well, here's the thing. I began this program in 1991 with high school students. That's where it began. It's now kindergarten, university, and everything in between. And so a lot of these students are now out there in the world, taking up positions of leadership in different walks of life. And they are making a difference. They take the philosophy that they learned in Roots and Shoots. And something that's, I think, very important in a discussion like this is we all need money to live. It goes wrong when we live for money, unless we're making money to make this a better world. And a question that I always want to ask economists, we always talk about, economic growth, the development of GDP and so forth, which obviously we want everyone to have a good life. But if you take the wealthy today, you take human population growth, which nobody ever wants to talk about, but which is really key. How can we have unlimited economic development, even not counting the richest of the rich, but us, on a planet of finite natural resources? We have to alleviate poverty on the one hand, reduce the unsustainable lifestyle of so many people on the other, and at least think about human population growth. And finally, to think that this natural world that we're destroying so fast, partly because of poverty, we need it for our own survival. I'm not just fighting because I care passionately about forests and chimpanzees and oceans and whales. I'm fighting because as we destroy the natural environment, we're destroying our own future, our own children and grandchildren. We all care about them, but we're not thinking about how what we do today is actually stealing their future.
Intelligence versus wisdom.
What is your ask to our generation and our group, and how do you think we could finally put an end to inequality? Thank you.
To link up our brain with our heart, because I truly believe only when head and heart work in harmony can we attain our true human potential. And you know, the other thing is, which I think fits into this discussion, as I'm traveling around the world, which I hate, by the way, and I do not have a private jet. Some people say I should, and I say that would be the most awful thing I could do. I meet amazing people. I keep encountering this indomitable human spirit, the people who tackle the impossible which you might say what we're talking about now seems impossible. And yet there are people who tackle it and go on fighting it and won't give up. And that indomitable human spirit is in every single one of us. And it's so important to realize when we're trying to solve problems that each and every one of us can make a difference. And each and every one of us on this planet, we do make an impact every single day. And we who have enough financial ability, we can choose what we do, what sort of impact we make. And these things are very important to remember. And it's also important to remember every individual matters. And of course, that includes animals who also are individuals, but every individual has a role to play. Everybody makes a difference every day. And everybody, all of us, we all have this indomitable spirit. The poorest of the poor I've encountered who just face up to the challenges. And I found that one of the biggest helps to reducing poverty and to empowering people is, first of all, through the youth, but also we introduced to reduce poverty in our area microcredit based on Muhammad Yunus's Grameen Bank, so that rather than hand out money to poor people, you loan them money and they pay you back and they're proud. It's theirs. They're now empowered to go out and make a difference and encourage those other people to also rise out of poverty by their own effort.